It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon. This is Robin Minds. Welcome. My name is Ebuka Obiuchendo. Thanks a lot for joining us. It's our very last show in the month of November. December is here, or like many people in Lagos like to call it Dirty December. But it's also a very scary time of the month, or of the year, for a lot of Nigerians. In the past week alone, multiple reports of just tragedy across the country on the Kaduna-Abuja Expressway, parts of the southeast. There's just multiple stories of people being attacked and even killed while trying to move around in the country. And it's very worrying for a lot of Nigerians, because December traditionally is a time when Nigerians travel. Some go back home to their families, some just take time off for vacations and all of that. So there's going to be a lot of road tripping and air traveling. And it makes people wonder what's to come in the month ahead. Hopefully the Nigerian security operatives are going to be on top of things, but as things stand now, it's not very encouraging or heartwarming for a lot of people. And so, I mean, transportation will be a lot of people's minds in the month to come. And we're going to be zoning in on that in our very first conversation on the show today. I have here with me Damilola Olokesusi. Thanks for being here today. You're the founder of Shuttlers, but we're going to get to that first of all. I want to talk about, transportation generally in Nigeria is one of the biggest a fundamental part of our life here. And it's something I think for as long as we have been alive, it's a conversation that has been going on. It's either they're fixing a major road, or we're talking about accidents, or we're trying to start a new agency like road safety, or we're reforming things. It's like we still haven't gotten a full hang of it. And like I said at the start of the show, I saw multiple videos recently about how just road transportation is still a nightmare in a country like this. Is security the biggest issue with transportation, you think, in Nigeria, or the roads, or is it both even?
It's a mixture of so many things. I think security is a huge factor for intercity transportation, but the intra-city, the infrastructure, the roads, inadequate. It's not even enough. Public transportation is not enough for the growing population. But for intercity, security is a major factor that's affecting the way people are commuting, are able to do, economic activities with each other as a state. Yeah.
So, I mean, the private sector has been a huge player traditionally in Nigeria. We've had all of the young shot growers, ABCs, and all of these companies that have sort of come in and have become a part of the fabric of transportation, especially intercity transportation. Before we started here having this ride sharing, which has now made even intra-city movement different. Is it a space that government should still be involved in, you think? Not that they are really involved in the movement of people per se, but talking about, I mean, we're even seeing companies like Dangote, for example, fixing roads, Is private sector going to be the answer to a lot of these problems, you think?
I think there has to be like an handshake with the public and private sector. Definitely the government has to come in, because it's something, I mean, transportation is supposed to be like an infrastructure that the government sets in space to ensure that there's a minimum, living standard that we, improved for the citizens. So if they are not involved and it's just private guys, then it becomes very expensive, and the everyday man will not be able to afford transportation. So if there's that handshake where it's affordable and very accessible, if the government says, oh, I want to do, the infrastructure, I want to provide policies that would help the private guys be involved, maybe reducing tax or reducing, if you fix this road, we'll help you do this. So there has to be that handshake where, they both collaborate to make things work. Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at some statistics here. In 2018, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics said that there were 11.8 million registered vehicles in Nigeria for 198 million people at the time, which is about 0.06 cars per person. Or 1 car per 0.06 person or something like that. Some people might think that's low, considering how hectic Lagos is. I mean, people tend to think there's a lot more cars than there actually are. Yeah. Does that mean there are not enough roads?
So first, to add to that statistics, 1/4 of all those roads in Nigeria are all in Lagos. And it's because
of the cars, you mean?
Yes, of the cars are in Lagos. And it's because this is the seat of major economic activity.
Which is why Lagos is the way it is.
Yes. Yes, I think it's correct. Unless you mentioned authority.
Yeah, I'm just saying, why do you think people think there are more cars in Nigeria? Are there not enough roads, maybe?
So I think there are not enough options, right? We are all, so professionals, right? When you come out of school, when you have money, you either want to buy a car or you share a car with somebody. the public transportation is not adequate for young professionals, right?
Yeah.
And then with the way people immigrate or come into Lagos every single year, they graduate, come into Lagos, is the rate at which the government is improving that sector is not growing at the rate at which the population is growing.
Yeah.
So I think it's the inadequate, availability of those modes of transportation. People are centered on the road. There should be intracity, ferries or air shuttles, that can provide security. People can move around securely. It's just that inadequacy that is the problem. It's not really about the roads, but it's part of the factors that affect it.
I mean, you mentioned there, the Lagos State government will tell you that their waterways are becoming even more active and they're trying to invest heavily in that in the coming years. But the rail, for some reason, is probably going on almost 20 years now from when it was inaugurated, and we're still not sure even when the first, trains are going to move on them. And it's something that is so fundamental to a city like this. We've seen some of the biggest cities in the world, whether it's Mumbai, Tokyo, London, New York. Those cities thrive because they have a thriving rail system. You can't have a dense population like this without that. Why is it taking so long, you think? Is it something that will ever even come on stream? And do you think that is actually the solution?
If we ask them, I'm sure they will say maybe investments, stalling the growth or the rate at which is, being built. But I think they've improved. I mean, we have Lagos Ibadan now, and they're currently doing the intracity one, the blue line and the red line. So I think there's some improvement, but it's not just fast enough. And the funny thing is, if you've planned 5 years ago that you're catering to 5 million people, now in 2012, that number has tripled or quadrupled, right? So I think it might be a problem with investment. I'm sure that if they have some kind of collaboration, because we are open to collaborating to helping in them, people have access to mass transit. If there's a handshake, like I said earlier, maybe things will be faster.
Yeah, because the blue line is one thing, but there's also so many other lines that are planned. I mean, the Ajah, Lekki, Ekpe axis is becoming a nightmare for a lot of people who live around those areas. The rail system is very, very needed there. We have a road that's almost crumbling.
Yeah.
I mean, people are there in traffic for hours every single day. We also have a port that's going to be opening there very soon, which makes it even scarier for what that road might become, So you wonder, I think I saw the Lagos State government saying in their budget that they're trying to invest more in roads and all of that. But are more roads going to answer this, is what the question is. Because, yes, the rail is coming, but there are certain axes that will definitely need it faster. And if the first one is taking 12, 15 years to build, these other areas that need it, how long will they take before, they even have theirs, if you know what I mean?
When it comes to the issue of transportation, I always try to look at the fundamental problem. Why is it that people are moving into Lagos in troops and in millions, right? I feel like if we develop other neighboring cities, for example, I grew up in Ibadan. If Ibadan was developed, if there were jobs in Ibadan, I would not come into Lagos. So I feel like other cities need to be developed to create jobs so that people will not see the need to always move into Lagos. So that reduces the rate at which the population grows because it affects the investment that the government is also putting into the sector, and it's not just enough. It's not adequate. So that's the number one solution I see there. Secondly, there has to be some kind of I think it's overwhelming for the government to handle alone. Yeah. I think that there has to be handshake again, private sector, startups. There's a lot of investments right now on technology, startups and everything. If there can be some kind of synergy that can provide intermodal form of transportation where a system where both the ferry, the road, the rail, cable system, all of them are all connected. People have so many options and people are not inclined to drive in Lagos. There would be that's the solution I see. Not, more
sorry, we'll come back to Lagos now, but just still talking about on an intercity scale. Air travel is still something that private sector has done quite well there, but it still doesn't seem to work as efficiently as most people would think. Everybody tells you after the first flight you're on your own. Anything you see after that, you take. The government is back again talking about launching a national carrier next year. The Lagos new terminal is still not up on stream. The air side of things, there's start and stop. What are your thoughts on a national carrier? Is this something we need, for example? Do you think that's probably the answer to the delays and almost the non-apology that comes after that? And just the way the air travel works here?
Honestly, I would, I would say they should just, partner with private guys, right? And, to answer your question about, what are the challenges for private guys that are still involved, I think that there's not enough competition. They've been doing it for years, maybe 20 years, 25 years. I think people need to now see it as a sector that is, not just fintech or the reigning thing. People need to come into the sector and make it competitive.
Disrupt it
Yes,
properly.
and disrupt it. So when there's competition, and customers would win because you're all striving to serve customers better. You would make sure that your systems are efficient. So I think that, people need to come into it and disrupt that sector.
Yeah. So you are the CEO, you are the founder of Shuttlers. What does Shuttlers do? Because I'm trying to understand, I know there's a lot of ride-sharing companies that we have in Nigeria already. What's different about Shuttlers? Okay. And why is it going to sort of disrupt, like you say, a space like this?
Okay. So before Shuttlers was created, we have, two forms. As a professional, there are two options that you have. It's either you have access to public transportation that is affordable, but it's not comfortable, right? Challenges, seating arrangements, road rage, security issues. And then you have ride-hailing services where they're expensive. If you're a young professional, you cannot use that service every single day. Then you have Shuttlers right in between. That is a shared mobility platform that is both comfortable and affordable, right? And the reason why we've created that system is to, we created using mass transit sharing model. So we don't do private car service. We share using cars and mostly buses, 14-seater buses and 25-seater buses. We recently took a survey on our platform and realized that about 20 to 30% of our customers use cars, meaning that every time we have 29 people in a bus, that means that 20-30% of them have dropped their car at home to use our service. And then we've reduced the number of cars on the road. So that's how we're solving the problem in an African way, because you know that, economic challenges, people can't really afford too much, but they also want comfort, right? And they want something that is reliable and efficient. So our service kind of works like the London bus service, where you can look at the timetable on a platform. You search using your pickup location and your destination, and you look at the buses coming along those routes, and then you pick one of them, right? Right now, our service is about 60 to 80% cheaper than ride-hailing services, and there's no surge or peak pricing. The only thing that can affect the price right now is the price of fuel, right? So that's how Shuttler service works.
So why should I, for example, decide to use a service like that if I have like a BRT, which most people already think is affordable anyways, and it pretty much has a schedule? Even if it's not particularly timed, but you kind of know when the BRT arrives at a certain bus stop and when you want to get to work and when to wait for it and all of that. Why should I leave that and decide to do a Shuttlers, for example?
It's the reliability. So for example, on our platform, you can book in a month advance where you are secured of a seat. We're currently talking to BRT guys to also work with them. Why? We don't own buses, so what we do is that we aggregate these buses, we vet them. We're creating a system where you can access comfortable transportation. So we believe in a world where we're going to be able to work with public transportation, place them on our platform. They're going to be scheduled. People can track their bus. They can book a seat in advance. You don't need to come to the bus stop to fight for seats or create a long line, and you're not really sure if you're going to get to your destination on time. In a world where you can actually plan your journey from Lagos to Abuja, where we've told you the bus to pick. So if you want to get to Abuja by 5 p.m., that's what we're trying to build.
So how do you do that? Because we hear a lot of stories about buses in Lagos or even in the country, and how the unions work with them and how they are so domineering and how nobody's just has any way to interfere or come in and give them the kind of structure you're talking about. What are you doing? Because that is something that still exists and will probably still exist for a while, which is why the buses are still on our streets, because those unions are very powerful.
Yes.
How do you decide to disrupt a space like that without or with them? How does that work?
There are two ways to solve our this problem. We've picked the easiest way for now, with limited resources. So there's the private sector, staff bus sector, right? And there's the downfall informal sector, right? So it's either we go the informal sector downfall way, which is really hard because you have to do education, you need to provide more buses, asset financing, or you go to the kind of formal private sector, that's the staff bus sector, where it's already been, kind of formal. They have the buses already, and so that's how we went to those guys first before going to those areas.
Yeah, sounds very exciting. it's the kind of thing that Lagos definitely needs. And but looking at back to the intercity movement, and December is really worrying me, because which was why I started off my show with that. And people are going to be moving a lot, you know. I know maybe Shuttlers is not on that national scale yet, but what's your advice, for example, to people who are going to be traveling this year? You know, air transport, road transport. What sort of things should they look out for if you're going to be hitting the road or the air in a few weeks?
So for road, I would say you should be on an alert. I think there are a number of companies, that share data on security information. If you want to apply this road, this is what is happening. If you're going to the east, this is what is happening. You should be informed about where you're going to, what days you shouldn't travel, what are the days that you should travel. And you should ensure that you're going to be the one to vet your own public transportation at this point, check that the vehicle has proper, papers before as you're about to enter. If you're trying to use the public transportation, ensure you use a secured one. There are a number of them where, they already have that system in place where it's all vetted and all of that. And those are the two key things that I would advise.
I know we always talk a lot about, London bus, London train, London underground and all of that, but these are two very different countries, right? If you're going to look at a model city that you would like Lagos to sort of be like, or that Lagos should be towing, where would that be, and what are they doing that you think we should be looking at very seriously?
London. Like you said earlier, I think that train is very, very, very crucial. It's fundamental. It's just like, it's like where we should have light every day, right? So that's one of the things that we need to set in place, have that mass transit that's able to make people from different touch points in the city. That's one major thing that we need to get right.
Yeah.
Just that one thing.
What are your thoughts on Okadas?
Okadas.
Because it's a very touchy topic.
Yes.
And I know it's banned in Lagos, but it's not banned. We're not sure what's happening. But, officially, they are supposed to be off the expressways, which they kind of are, but we still see them around. What are your thoughts on them? For a city like this that needs people to move around, but is also not very good at regulating something like that. Yeah.
So my friends at Max, the founders, they were one of the, were affected by the recent ban of Okada. What they were proposing was that they would want to be part of the reform, to provide that kind of structure in an unstructured, system like that Okada, because they actually can constitute a nuisance, right? Yeah. And so if, again, the government is, willing to work with private sector, that can happen. But for the Lagos transport plan system, they don't see bike as a mode of public transportation. It's not in the plan. So there has to be some kind of re-education or to re-examine what they want to see. Because right now they see it as it should just be in the interland and not be on the main roads. That it should just be like a last mile. The argument,
sorry to cut you in, how different are they from the kekes, for example? I mean, in your opinion, as someone who works in the transport sector, how different are they? Because many people will tell you that the kekes are equally a menace to people with the way they drive, hardly obeying traffic rules. So why is that one allowed and why is this one not?
I mean, we can just say that it's helping to reduce the number of bikes on the road, because if you have one person, two people on a bike, and then you have 4 people on keke, those bigger ones are, those co-worker ones are 5 people or 7 people in it. So reducing the number of bikes on the road, you usually have like 5, but you have 1 keke right now. So I think that's one major difference between keke and I think that the risk as well, the accident that people have on the bikes to cause a lot of accidents. People don't use their helmet, and then that causes all of those challenges. I think that's also a major factor.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Good luck with Shuttlers. We're going to be looking at how much you're able to disrupt this, because, I think everybody who lives in Lagos is looking forward to a better transportation system that works for everybody. So all the best with everything.
Thank you so much, Ebuka.
We'll take a break now, and we'll be right back. Please don't go away.
We represent G-E